Hello, friends, and welcome to Writing in the Weeds. We are here with episode 98. We are so close to 100. Super excited. Thank you so much for being here. Those of you who have been here before, who have been on this journey with us, we're just so grateful. What we want to talk about today is that we're not here to get to the end. Inevitably in life, we are going to get to the end. We don't know when it's coming. And so often we won't start something because we're afraid of what's going to happen. And when we get all wrapped up in the ending, we don't get to enjoy the process. And that's something that Jenny and I have really discovered along our journey here with Writing in the Weeds. We get stuck in the weeds when we're too worried about where we're going, right? And it is important. We've talked about this before. It's important to have a North Star. It's important to know where your goal is, where you're going. You don't just start driving somewhere without knowing the destination and plugging it into Google Maps. However, even Google Maps will quite often give you several different options of how you can get to your destination. And that's exactly what happens in life. So when we worry too much about the end, when we worry too much about where we're going, when we're reading a book and all we're thinking about is what happens at the end, well, you may as well be one of those people who just reads the ending first and then can enjoy the book. And let's just be honest here. In life, we've all read the ending. We all know inevitably what is going to happen. We might not know how it happens, but we do know where the ending is. So that's been done. Spoiler alert, right? So it's how we experience, it's how we live. And this kind of dovetails into our episode from last week, where you get to choose the experience that you're having based on where you look. And if all you're doing is thinking about how it's going to end, then you're always going to be disappointed. Guaranteed. So I am Natasha Lockie. I am a life mountain bike performance coach here to help you just have more fun in life, spend less time in the weeds, more fun in the moment. And I do some really cool stuff with helping people get their businesses up and running by allowing them to book clients really easily. I also am all about helping you if you've got an idea and you want to share it, you've got some great content that you want other people to learn, I can help you put it into a course and get it into the world. I am here with my amazing co-host, as always, Jenny. Tell us a little about yourself and let's dive in.
Awesome. I am Jenny Brandon. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. I do intuitive work with animals to connect with them and find out more about life from their perspective so that you all can have a deeper relationship together and work through behavior challenges, emotional challenges, whatever life throws at you, and have a stronger relationship on the other side.
Awesome. So the inspiration for this episode was I read a fiction book recently and I found myself just like, well, what happens? What's the end of the story? What's the end of the story? Okay, I've got to get through all of this stuff to get to the end of the story. And it was a good book. I enjoyed the story, but I noticed myself just wanting to get to the other end. And as I'm getting closer to the end, it becomes more of a race to the finish to find out what happens. And this happens like in every fiction book I have read in the last year. I have gotten to the end and I've been deeply disappointed because it does not really satisfy me. And I think part of that is because I'm putting so much pressure on the ending because I'm not really enjoying the story. So the ending's got to be really good because I'm in such a hurry and there's all this like anticipation to find out what's going to happen. But what's happening is I'm really not enjoying the experience of the story as it goes along. And this writer has put in all of this effort to create the story and build out the characters and do all the things that makes up a really good novel. And I'm not appreciating any of that. I just want to know how it finishes. And as I said in the intro, it's like, so why bother reading the book? Like, why don't I just read the ending and be done with it. And I think
Yeah.
I've said this a lot over the episodes, is that I really enjoy the messy middle of anything. If I'm reading someone's success story, it's like, how did it start? How did it end? And I get frustrated that there's nothing in the middle. But now I'm sitting here going, wow. But when I'm reading a book, all I want to know is how it ends. So, hypocrite alert, right here. So yeah, the book, and then the last thing I'll say on that is I was actually talking to someone yesterday, and I was saying, like, yeah, I read Great Expectations, and I got to the end of the book, and I was so disappointed in the ending. And she's like, well, that's kind of the point of the book. It's like, you have great expectations, but then there's not really anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't even think of it like that.
Yeah, I think this is where, as humans, we like things to be tied up with a neat bow and have the closure of something. Like, I'm in a similar way that when you end a book and it leaves you with a cliffhanger where you know there's another one, but maybe it's not written yet, that's excruciating to me because I want more information. I want to know where the story goes. I want to know what happens to the characters. I mean, this is literally why I don't read fiction anymore, because I can't stop myself from reading. The only thing that I'll get done is reading, to the detriment of life at that point. Mm-hmm. So I completely relate. And I think it's just that we love things to be wrapped up in such a nice, neat little bow. But life isn't like that. Life is messy. And like you said, there's really only one final ending that is available to all of us. Everything else is just a continuation. It's just a change. It's a shift. It's a chapter in life that may have some closure or may not. And then we move on to the next chapter in our lives. And I think when we can figure out how to relish in that journey in the middle and be okay when something doesn't have nice, pretty closure to it, and learn to let it go and allow it to move on anyway, that's when we can start thriving, and that's when we can stay out of the weeds at that point. I've noticed this with the horse work that I do. When I was a very novice horse person starting out, I was also an adult learner with horse stuff. I had all these ideas about what I wanted to learn and the skills I wanted to have. And very quickly, it became more about my horse's well-being and how my horse felt about our relationship, about the work we were doing, and how they were progressing in that with their fitness level and how useful I was to my horse at that point. I don't even remember when those grand ideas of the skills I wanted to have just sort of fell out the window, but I don't really have them anymore. With my personal horse, he and I have an amazing relationship, and we just keep going for however long we have. And every horse that comes into my life that I get the pleasure of working with for an extended period of time, we just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And we have no aspirations of getting to some big grandiose goal, because the relationship and their well-being is more important to me than some goal. So I don't need an end at that point. And it feels good. Every day I get to show up and do whatever we need to do. And it changes day to day. Sometimes I walk in with a plan and the plan is not executed at all. And that's okay. And that feels good to me now. Yeah. So how else can I apply that to the rest of life?
No, I love that. I was in my yoga practice this morning, and the teacher was saying, this too shall pass. We were doing this hard pose, and he's like, be with it. Be in it. Breathe through it, because everything in life passes, good or bad. It moves through. And there was another pose that was like balance challenging. And so you fall out of balance. When you're ready, get back in. And he's constantly reminding me that the practice is not about the end, which in this sense is getting it right in the moment. Like, it actually doesn't matter. And the same thing with a fitness practice and a workout. The goal is not actually to do it perfectly. The goal is to be constantly improving and to be in the experience. I used to not be able to work out without music, loud punk rock. And I would disconnect, going for a run, loud punk rock. Disconnect into the music, body doing one thing, mind doing another. And now I'm really starting to understand that the juice actually comes if you can do a workout with no music, and getting to the point of being able to do a yoga sequence without a teacher telling you and prompting you what to do, and to work through a sequence. I've never really enjoyed the whole process of we go from one thing to another thing to another thing, and my brain's going, oh, now I'm going to have to go back and do this all again on the other side. And I hate that. Like, let's just get it done. And as we explore this topic, and as I really am conscious to this way of being, it's like, oh, okay, that's what's been bothering me for the last year since I wrapped up my business. And it's the ending kind of sucked. And I mean, not the ending of the mountain bike business. That hasn't ended. That's an ongoing story because it's been passed on. But if I look at that and I go, yeah, but the story's really good and would make a great book. And everything I've done since Ian broke his back has been, and even before, it's been an incredible story. And that's what's interesting. If I was to sit down and write a book of how I got to where I am right now, it would not be boring. It wouldn't be, and I went to university, I got a job, I sat in the corner office, and then I retired. That wouldn't be my story. My story's got a lot of stuff. And when I talk to my counselor, and she's like, well, you haven't told me this story, and I can just keep pulling them out of the hat. And I've talked to counselors before, and they're just like, whoa, okay, hold up. You've had a lot go on. And not all of it, like, not traumatically, but just there's a lot in there to unpack. And that's what life is about. And when we get lost in the failed endings or the successful endings, they're not satisfying. I was born, I came up with an idea, I made a whole lot of money, I sold the business, and now I'm really rich. No one wants to read that story. That's boring. No one even wants to live that story.
Yeah.
But yet, when we sit and we examine, it's like, yeah, I bought a bike and I was instantly really good at it. And every time I tried anything, I did it perfectly. And I don't really like biking because it's boring. It's in the challenges.
Yeah, that's exactly where it is it's in the struggle, and it's in the challenge that we grow. And without those things, we wouldn't ever grow, and therefore we wouldn't ever really achieve anything. So we'd have an even more boring story because it would just be like a lump on a log, right? There wouldn't be any story at that point. And I think we resist the struggle sometimes. We're afraid of it. We resist it. Sometimes I don't even want to begin something because I'm too afraid of the struggle that I know will be coming. And so it's like I don't even want to get to the end because I don't want to go through the middle to get there. And we have all these ideas in our head that we can somehow avoid that.
I think
it's not true.
It's like this is sort of our next topic for our next episode. And it's what he was saying in my yoga. It's only a struggle if you see it as that. But if you see it as like, this is a passing moment, it takes on a whole different experience. You know, and kind of back to that story, last night I went out for a stand-up paddle with my husband and my dog. And at one point, the dog jostled us, and he really needed to get off because he needed to go for a poop, let's be honest. And so he dumped us both in the water. And it's not real warm. And it was like 7 o'clock at night. And it was like, oh, I'm not actually cold. If I had been afraid of falling off my sup because it was cold, well, I'd never be out with the dog to start with because it's just ridiculous. He's 110 pounds and we're out on a stand-up paddleboard. I was fully clothed. But at the end, I was like, that was a way more fun experience than it would have been otherwise. I got dumped in the water and then I got to have a hot shower. Like, all ended
now
well.
There's a story.
End of story. Right. The story,
yeah.
like, the ending was great, actually, to be honest. So is the story. And that could be seen as a struggle. It could be seen as challenging, or it's just part of the story. And back to what I said at the very beginning, this is so often why we don't start something. And this journey with our podcast right now is a really interesting one. Like, honestly, the last month, we could have just given up and been like, we will restart when Tash gets her shit together.
We could have given up again.
Again.
Because the opportunity to give up has presented itself numerous times in the past almost 3 years now of doing this.
I am not the easiest podcast co-host to work with. But we haven't. This is the second time we've actually tried to record this particular episode, to be frank with you guys. But we do what we can do. And
yeah,
there are ways to make it easier that I'm resisting. But at the same time, like, it's kind of part of the journey. It's kind of the fun, part of our story. And I think it makes the fact that we get them out every week, pretty much mostly on time, really impressive. Yeah. And that's our personal project. And we love that you're listening, because then it makes it into more than just us and bigger than just us. And the whole concept of riding in the weeds is moving through them.
Yeah. That's really all it boils down to. And when we can let go of what the end looks like and not worry about the beginning and just focus on right where we are, that's how you make progress.
It's totally how you make progress. It's how you get back into shape if you've fallen off the wagon. It's how you start getting in shape. It's how you start mountain biking. I've talked about this before. I started my Betty Go Hard business out of, like, it's an extreme action sports community. And no one wanted to join an extreme action sports community because no one thought they were extreme. And I was like, extreme is starting. Extreme is having the experience. Extreme is not being at the X Games. It's extreme because you're writing a story. And the end of the story doesn't have to be, and I turned pro.
Yeah. And I made money.
And I made
money.
And
I had a business.
Right.
How much does our culture push that? Oh, you have a really cool hobby. Why don't you make money at it?
Right. Or coming back to the pets. Like, that's actually the cool side of this. If we flip this over and we go, all right, so you get a dog, you get any kind of a pet. We know that, unfortunately, from the moment you fall in love with this little furry creature, you are very aware. And the last thing you want to do is get to the ending.
Yeah.
We actually avoid it. And because of that, we are so in the story the entire time. Because you're like, I've got a limited amount of time. The story is going to end. And it's finite. So how can I squeeze the juice out of every single moment and appreciate every moment?
That's where I'm at right now with my horse. He's 23 and he's a draft horse. And just like big dogs, big horses tend to have a shorter life expectancy. Yeah. At 23, he's doing fantastic. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that something can't happen. And I mean, honestly, I am terrified of it. I'm absolutely terrified of losing him. I know it's coming. Yeah. It's going to arrive one day, and it'll arrive when I'm least expecting it, because that's how those things are. If you can't, we talked about this last time, worrying about it isn't useful because the outcome will never be how you worried about it. Yeah. You can't prepare for that way. And he's 23, and B, the foster horse I have with me, is 22. And my friend's horse that I exercise every week, that I've known basically as long as I've had my horse, she's 25.
Yeah.
So, like, I have all these elder horses in my life, and they are giving me so much wisdom now, but I know our time is on the shorter side. And so I am trying to throw as much energy and love and joy into it as I can, and just relish every single moment here now, because there will be an end, and it will not be fun because it means they won't be in the physical with me anymore. But right now, I can do what I can do.
Yep.
And that's what matters.
That's what matters. I have a friend, Amy Purdy. She is an incredible human being. She lost both her legs when she was 19 to meningitis. And she was lying in the hospital bed trying to figure out how to move forward. And a couple of things that she talks about. One was the moment when she realized that she could be as tall as she wanted.
That's amazing.
Hey, hold on a minute. I always wanted to be 5'7". I remember asking her that one day. I'm like, how tall actually were you? She's like, well, I was like 5'5". She's like, I always wanted to be 5'7". I'm like, me too. And I'm like, and now you get to be. She's like, actually, that was like one of the first things that turned it around, was having that thought. And then the other one was, I am the author of my story and I get to write it. And now she's famous, motivational speaker, gets to travel the world. She's inspired so many people, and she's been on Oprah. She's super awesome and has an incredible story to share. She's been to the X Games. She was a big part of the adaptive movement. I met her through my husband, and she got, I think, bronze at the Paralympics when Ian went. I believe she went to 2 Paralympics. She was on Dancing with the Stars. That was actually incredible because she's at the Paralympics and at the same time training to be on Dancing with the Stars, because that's just the opportunity. And so that's what she did. And the story that she has written is incredible. She could have given up.
Yeah.
But instead, that thought, you are the author of your own story, has been the thing. I mean, she was in a music video. I can't remember who it was. The stuff that she has done.
Yeah.
Next level cool. And it's all because she made the decision that A, this wasn't the end, and B, she got to be the author of her own story. Wasn't about how it was going to end. It was about how she was going to live in this new space. And she's changed so many people's lives. And I think that if we don't have anything else to say about this, my revelation that it's not about the ending. It's about, what are you doing right now? How are you writing your story? And I'm saying this as much for myself as for anyone that is out there listening. If this is the first time that you've come across us, I hope that you like this message. I hope that this resonates with you, because the number one way we can get stuck in the weeds, and I can tell you this from my experience over the last couple of years, I've been off having these incredible experiences, and at the same time, I've been stuck in the weeds of like, yeah, but I failed over here. Yeah, but this didn't end the way I wanted it to. I had an idea of the ending, and that's not the one I got. And I've been kind of pissed off about it, which is probably why I've been pissy about the fact that these books haven't ended the way that I want to. And it probably has a little bit to do with the diving into Hallmark movies that I do at Christmas time, because the beautiful thing about a Hallmark Christmas movie is it's always a predictable, happy ending. And that is
Nice little bow.
a beautiful little bow, and you watch it and you're like, life is not like that.
Ever.
Ever.
Nope.
And it can be even better if you allow it to be. But if you're fixated on the ending, you're always going to be disappointed.
Yeah. 100%.
Anything else?
I don't think so. That wraps it up really neatly.
A nice, neat ending and a bow.
Nice, neat ending with a bow, right? Yeah. Look what we did. Ta-da!
So, throwing it out there, if you like this episode, if you enjoy listening to us, please share us with the world. Send us a note. You can find us on Substack. We do have our wins chat, which Ginny has been incredibly diligent with. I unfortunately have been struggling with internet issues, and it's amazing the things you cannot do when you don't have a consistent internet. That is one of them. It's also quite interesting how it's like, well, what's important? Is it really important that I go up and check my Facebook at 9 o'clock at night? Because quite honestly, if I do my wins, I'm probably going to scroll Facebook. But the wins chat is amazing. Come on over to Substack, join us over there, subscribe, like, please share this with the world, and let people know that you're thinking about them by sharing something that inspired you today. And we'd love it to be us. I am Natasha Lucky. You can find me on Instagram at Betty Gohard. You can find me on Facebook at Natasha Lucky. And you can find me on Substack. I say this like I'm on there regularly, but right now, due to my internet, I am a little bit out to lunch. And if you are interested at all in talking to me about my life performance coaching, my VA business suite setup stuff, or if you have an online course idea that you have been dying to get out to the world, sometimes holding something lightly, but knowing you've got a dream in your heart, you've got a story you want to write, let's write that together and then see what happens. It doesn't matter how it ends, but it could be better than you ever imagined. So stop holding on to that stuff and not sharing it with the world, because you have something special that needs to be shared, whether it's just your smile today. That's what we have. Each and every one of us have something that is special and needs to be out there. So don't hold it back. Don't worry about the ending. Just start writing your story. And passing it over to finish us up.
Yeah, I'm Jenny Brandon. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. If you are struggling with your pet with behavior or emotional stuff, or you've got a lot going on in your life and you want a little extra support for you and your pet as you navigate challenging times in your story right now, that's a good reason to have a session together. If you have a pet that is older, then that's a great time to have a session together to connect, find out how they're doing, and just stay in tune with where they're at in their life. That's a really useful way to use animal communication to support your relationship. So you can find me on the web at soulpetconnections.com and on Substack, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube under the same handle. We really appreciate you hanging on this wild ride through the weeds today. It's been an interesting one, and this is the end of this one, but not the end of the podcast. So hang on, because there will always be more.
Always be more.
Look forward to seeing you next time.
I love it. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have an amazing day wherever you are, whatever you're doing. I hope you are having an amazing story.